Alright everyone, welcome back. So, the Seattle Kraken is up next here in our 2024 review series. The Kraken, in their third season in the NHL, had a disappointing year, I'd say. Last year they made the playoffs, they did relatively well, they impressed a lot of people. This year felt like a step back when you look overall in the standings. This team was looking to get back in the playoffs for the second straight season, but it just wasn't in the cards this year. They went 34, 35, and 13 for 81 points. They were 25th in the NHL. So, for the Seattle Kraken, there weren't a lot of expectations last year. Last year, they got off to a really good start, and as well as that, too, obviously, they finished at the first wildcard spot. Upset Colorado, almost upset Dallas, and went on to play into the Western Conference Finals. Obviously, that did not happen. But regardless, Seattle looked good. This year, though, it wasn't so much of that. Offense really died down for this team. The goaltending wasn't as good as it's been in previous years. Now, they had their moments this season, but there really wasn't that many, above all, great moments there for the Kraken overall, and obviously that affected them in their playoff push. They had a .494 points percentage, which is ranked 25th. You can notice a pattern there if you watch these videos. They had scored 217 goals and let in 236 for a -19 difference. As I said, and when I get into the goal scoring, that's something that last year was a huge advantage for this team, and this year has just fallen off a cliff. If this team wants to make their way back into the playoffs, they're going to need to find another sense of goal scoring. That was their biggest issue a lot of the time during this season. They were 17, 18, and 6 at home, and they were 17, 17, and 7 on the road. They had a 2.61 goals for per game, which is 29th. Yes, you heard that right, 29th. This team, I think, was top 10 last year in goals for, as I said, and the offense this year really seemed to dry up, and that was a huge problem as to why Seattle struggled this year. They had a 20.7 power play percentage, which was ranked 17th, so their power play wasn't that bad, even though their goals for was down, and they have a 78.8 penalty kill percentage, which was ranked 20th. So they had good special teams when you look at it. Not like awesome special teams, but they were average. So not terrible there for a team that wasn't too great. As I said, though, I think I've already mentioned this, their goals against is 2.83, which is 9th. So, and a lot of that lies on Joey Daccord, and we'll get into him in a little bit here, but still, goals against did improve from last year, if I'm correct. Their TikTok average, their average to the power rankings, was a 5.33 in their division, which is ranked 24th amongst all the teams in the National Hockey League. So, again, Seattle as a whole had a down season. Do I expect them to be back next year? Maybe. Do I expect them to be better, though? Yes, they will be better next season, for sure. And I think that, as well as that, too, getting a decently high draft pick, 8th overall isn't, like, really high, but still, getting a pick at that spot is going to really benefit this team's prospect pool. So, leading scorers, Jared McCann, 80 games played, 29 goals, 33 assists, 62 points. You could argue he's the best player in Kraken history. He's been an amazing two-way forward these past two seasons. Just barely below that 30-goal mark, which sucks. But he's definitely an effective forward and probably the best forward on this Kraken roster. Oliver Bjorkstrand, 82 games played, 20 goals, 39 assists, 59 points. Also had a pretty good season, too. In his second year with the team, I thought he played well. Vince Dunn, we talked about Dunn last season, and his contract. He did sign a contract. I think it was a 4-year deal at $7 million. Not 100% sure if that's right. But Dunn, 59 games played, 11 goals, 35 assists for 46 points. Dunn missing some time had to affect this team for sure. And I think that with a fully healthy Vince Dunn, it'll help a lot for this Kraken team in the next season. Jordan Eberle now, 78 games played, 17 goals, 27 assists for 44 points. I thought Eberle had a solid year. I think it's not the greatest year he's had in previous years of his career, but obviously he's kind of falling down a little bit because he's getting older. There were rumors of him being traded. They did re-sign him, so I don't think that happens soon. I think he's probably going to retire as a Kraken. If I'm looking at it, to be honest with you, he's probably going to retire a Seattle Kraken. Maybe, wouldn't surprise me. Eli Tolvanen, 5th in scoring with 81 games played, 16 goals, 25 assists, 41 points. Again, was a waiver pickup last season. Has looked good this year as a solid, what should be a third liner, middle scoring player, but didn't look bad at 41 points this year. I give credit to him. So Matty Beniers now. Beniers had a down year, and this is something we see a lot with players. a sophomore slump. And that's what we've seen with Beniers this past season. 77 games played, 15 goals, 22 assists for 37 points. I thought Beniers had a way better second half to the season. The first half, though, was not good. It was not a great first half of the season whatsoever. And I think that if Beniers can build off that second half and go into next season, he can definitely reach back to what he was in his rookie season. But above all, we expected more from Beniers, and it was a down year. But I think a fully healthy Beniers and a playing at his best level, I think this Kraken team would have been much better, at least a little bit closer to the playoffs than 25th overall. And again, that's league overall. Like they were probably, I think they were the third worst or the fourth worst team in the conference to miss the playoff, or fourth best team to miss the playoffs, which I don't know how you take that, but this team still has the bright spots, and they could be having a better season next year. Yanni Gourde, 7th in scoring, 80 games played, 11 goals, 22 assists, 33 points. I thought Gourde had a good year. I didn't think he looked bad. Jaden Schwartz, 62 games played, 13 goals, 17 assists for 30 points. Schwartz looked good. I think that a lot of these guys are in the older stages of their career, like Schwartz, Justin Schultz, Gourde. They're a little bit older than some of the other players on this roster, but I think they did decent for what they were given. Justin Schultz, 70 games played, 7 goals, 19 assists, 26 points. Kind of forgot that Schultz was in the league, to be honest with you. But hey, he had a decent year by those standards. And then Will Borgen was 10th in scoring with 82 games played, 3 goals, 22 assists for 25 points. So, above all, one thing that I noticed when I looked at the numbers from this season and last season was that they lost a lot of depth this year. A lot of the depth that they had in the 22-23 season moved on to better teams. Better teams, more or less, and moved on to, different teams in the NHL. So the Kraken lost a lot of depth as a result. Now, they tried to fix that, bringing in guys like Yamamoto and other players like that, but it turned out to not really work. Now, this team showed, as I said, a lot of sparks and potential over this season, like the 11-game point streak, shutting out Vegas in the Winter Classic. We thought that, they definitely could be a team that can make it next year, and there were a lot of people that were high on them too. Like a lot of beat writers and broadcasters were saying that they thought Seattle could get back into it, but they just couldn't get it going. I think there were a few losing streaks they had during the season. Like I think towards the end of the year they had an 8-game losing streak, and then they had an 8-game winning streak, and then they had another 8-game losing streak. So it's been really streaky this year with the Kraken. But I think again, under new coach Dan Bilzma, I think I'm saying that right, Bilzma. I think this team will be a lot better next season. He was obviously great with the Pittsburgh Penguins, won a Stanley Cup with them, got a Jack Adams trophy under his belt. He's been coaching in the American Hockey League and an assistant for the past couple of seasons. So it's been a while since he got a head coaching job in the league. But I think Bilzma can be a good coach for this Kraken roster, a relatively young team. I envision Sheldon Keefe, but I don't mind a guy like Bilzma or however you say it. I'm going to be saying it wrong all year on this Kraken roster. Kraken fans, you can yell at me in the comments below. As it goes for the goalies, as I said, I talk about Joey Dackard. Sorry, words are hard today. And, school's almost over and I'm tired. Dackard, 19, 18, and 11 for a 2.46 and a .916. Now, his record wasn't great. It was pretty subpar when you look at it, almost average, to be honest with you. But the 2.46 is pretty good for a team that was 25th in the NHL this year, and a .916 is pretty spectacular. There were points where Dackard didn't let in a lot of goals, and I've always liked Dackard. I remember when he played his first couple of games with the Senators. He looked good there, and then he got selected by the Kraken in the expansion draft, was in the American Hockey League the past couple of years, and now he's come up to the NHL and has looked like a serviceable starting goaltender. I would envision him to be the goalie next season. Philip Grubauer, 14, 16, and 2, a 2.85 goals against average and a .899 save percentage. I'm not going to excuse it. It's brutal. That's a pretty brutal season from Grubauer. It wouldn't surprise me if they look at, cap space and what they want to do. It wouldn't surprise me if they try and move on from Grubauer next season or this offseason. Heading into next season, I should say. So that's it for this season. I know this season had a lot of highs, a lot of lows, but regardless, the Kraken still missed the playoffs. Look at their ins and outs here. The guys who came in, the guys who left midway through the season. You got Thomas Tatar, a second and a fourth that came in this year, and then Wennberg with a fifth going out for this team. Wennberg to the Rangers, obviously, looking good there on their on their conference finals run. I do think, though, that they really didn't have a lot of assets to move, and they weren't really like wanting to move anything, to be honest with you. They didn't want to move a whole lot of players, which I guess made some sense. So that's it for this season. Let's look into the future now, look at the draft, and see what's coming for them. So your draft capital here, you got an 8th overall pick. That's their current pick in the draft. They have 2 seconds, 2 thirds, a 4th, no 5th, 1 6th, and 2 7ths. So they have not a lot of draft capital, but a decent amount there in the early rounds. Late rounds, not so much. But regardless, I think it's important they strike on someone like a forward potentially. I think they need some more scoring. I think that was a big thing that really affected this team this year. And you look at the numbers, too. I think they only had like 2 20-goal scorers. Yeah, that's not going to work. And I think next year, though, will be better if Beniers gets better and obviously other players in this team, get better. I think Tolvanen is capable of scoring 20. I think Beniers at his peak can score maybe 30, 35 goals. It's just a matter of getting Beniers to that point. So it wouldn't surprise me if they draft a forward this year. I'll go into more prospect previews soon, but regardless, I think that's where I see Seattle drafting. UFAs and RFAs, it's a short list for both. Thomas Tatar, Pierre Belmar, Justin Schultz, and Chris Drieger. I think Tatar maybe they keep around, but it wouldn't surprise me if they move on from all of these guys just to try and, get some cap space and maybe make a big signing. Belmar, potentially not a bad name there. Maybe they keep him around. Schultz, I think, goes. And I think Drieger probably does go too. He's been in the AHL with a contract that should not be in the American Hockey League, so it wouldn't surprise me if Chris Drieger finds himself as a free agent. RFAs, Kailer Yamamoto, Eli Tolvanen, and Matty Beniers. This is a weird kind of thing. I said Yamamoto was brought in for depth, kind of failed. I'm assuming they bring him into like a 1-year, $900K deal, something like that. If they don't, then they're probably not going to sign him. Tolvanen can get some good money. I'm not saying he's going to get like $5 million, but I think he can get a good $2 million deal at like 2 years potentially. And then Beniers. It's weird because Beniers had a down season in a career year like his. I think he most likely gets a bridge deal, but I've been wrong before. I think that's where I kind of see Beniers finishing at there. So that's your 2024 review for the Seattle Kraken. I think there's a few things they need to do in the offseason to really fix this team, but I think I'm high on them, and I think they can go in the right direction next season, in their 4th season in the NHL. So regardless, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Kraken fans, subscribe down below. Let me know your thoughts on Dan Bylsma as the new coach. I probably just said it wrong there, but regardless, I didn't make a video on that separately. I just made this. But regardless, thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Adios.